Good morning, class. Today we're going to be learning about events that are leading up to the American Revolution. We're also going to be learning about significant individuals, one in particular by the name of Thomas Paine, and how he contributed to also sparking the interest of American independence from Great Britain. We're going to start in this timeline with the first event, which is 1763. Remember the Proclamation of 1763, in which, after winning the French and Indian War, the British gained more territory in the North American continent. They defeated the French, and the French lost all territory there. And now it's just British control. Since the colonists joined the French and Indian War, they were expecting to have access to the land west of the Appalachian Mountains. But after the king enacted the Proclamation of 1763, this pretty much told the colonists, you cannot go to that section, you cannot settle anywhere west of the Appalachian Mountains. Again, this was pretty much native land, and the settlers were to stay off limits. This pretty much angered the colonists, since they were pretty much hoping to go ahead and settle there, and this kind of sparked their dislike for the British government. After that, taxes were imposed on the colonists, and this made them even more upset. Let's remember that Britain was in need of money after the French and Indian War because, like I mentioned, wars are very expensive. And now Great Britain is in debt and they owe a lot of money. So there's going to be some heavy taxes that are going to be imposed on colonists. Mostly some of them are to, in fact, help pay for the war debt. We're going to start with the most popular one, 1765, the Stamp Act, meaning that all paper items, colonists were going to be paying an extra tax on that. So if you were to buy newspaper, pamphlets, even playing cards, colonists were supposed to pay an extra tax on that. If you needed a legal document to be stamped, a stamp would require an extra tax. Let's also go back to this, the Quartering Act, which is in fact housing of British soldiers in colonist homes. Even if they didn't want to, they were told that they needed to house these soldiers because there was no space and no money to pretty much house them. So it was a responsibility now of the colonists to provide housing, shelter, and food for the British soldiers. Then we talked about the Townshend Act of 1763, which pretty much also imposed a tax on every item that was glass, paint, tea, and of course the colonists would pretty much try to avoid buying these items so that the money wouldn't go to Great Britain. So remember, when you refused to buy British goods, that meant that they would boycott those items. To make things worse, since the colonists were already building resentment over British government, the Boston Massacre happened. Remember when 5 colonists were shot by British soldiers? They were facing an altercation, and all of a sudden, a brick was thrown, it hit the soldier, and so they accidentally fired, and then more and more fires were pretty much done. And in the end, 5 colonists died. The most famous casualty of the Boston Massacre being Mr. Crispus Attucks. After that, if we remember, the Tea Act was enacted, and as a reaction to that, in 1773, the Boston Tea Party took place. This was an act of civil disobedience in which the Sons of Liberty, which were colonists from Boston, dressed up as Indians and dumped over the tea to the Boston Harbor. Let's remember, this was an act of civil disobedience. They were not there to destroy the ships, they simply wanted to get rid of the tea. As a response, the British government came up with the Intolerable Acts. So this was to punish the colonists for what they have done in the Boston Tea Party. These pretty much closed their Boston Harbor, and it affected people and it affected trade. So again, this is a quick timeline of the events leading up to the American Revolution. And this is what we're going to pick up right now. So right here, the last thing we talked about was the Intolerable Acts, 1774. So King closed Boston harbors. What's going to happen? That very same year, in October, the First Continental Congress was established. So this is pretty much where colonial leaders gathered to talk about what was happening, and they gathered in Carpenter's Hall in Pennsylvania. Let's go ahead and see that they did not seek to separate from Great Britain yet. Their goal was to express their concerns and ask the king to correct the problems. So they sent a list of complaints or grievances in hopes for the king to pretty much say, well, maybe I was too harsh or something, but that's not going to happen. The outcome of this Continental Congress, pretty much, the people were told to start their own militias and prepare for a possible war. Let's remember that militia was one of your vocabulary terms, which is just an army of regular civilians. We're going to talk about one specific significant revolutionary of the time, and that is Thomas Paine. So Thomas Paine was an English writer, and he disliked authority. He did not like a single person being in charge of a single country. So he wrote this pamphlet called Common Sense in 1776. And in his pamphlet, like you see right here, he pretty much put the idea of independence in people's minds. So how did he contribute to American history? What does his book have to do with events leading to revolution? Well, Thomas Paine helped pave the road toward the Declaration of Independence. Again, he's planting that seed into the colonists that, hey, maybe it's not a bad idea to declare independence. Once again, he believes that a small distant island, like Britain, should not govern the colonies. Your assignment, kids, is going to be the following. You're going to go ahead and create a Google slide, and you're going to answer the following question. So Thomas Paine wrote Common Sense in 1776. In his book, he argues for the American colonists to take arms against England and to seek their independence. In your own opinion, was Thomas Paine right or wrong to encourage the colonies to declare independence from Great Britain? I want you to go ahead and use evidence to explain your answer. Again, you will find this right here in Google Classroom as an assignment. You are to answer this question. You are creating a brand new Google slide. This is how I will mark you present. For example, here is the assignment. The instructions read, Class, you are to watch the video lesson for today, Road to Revolution and Common Sense. You will then submit the assignment that I give you after the lesson, which is a slide. Once you submit the assignment here, you will be marked present. You will have a video lesson and an assignment each day. We do not meet face-to-face, meaning during B days from now on. Failure to do so or failure to turn in your work that very same day will result in an absence. I will also upload an Edpuzzle of Common Sense. You will have to turn that in as well to be marked present. So you have a busy assignment right now, actually an assignment that will keep you pretty much busy for the next 15 minutes. So let's rewatch the video and watch your Edpuzzle to gain more information on common sense and do your best to answer the following question. Bye-bye, kids.